Methodist, not Lutheran, Methodist church, we should sing a hymn here. Placate the ghosts who are still here. My country, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the Pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside, let freedom ring. Well done, so well done, we have to sing another one. And those of you who grew up the children of liberal parents, I feel sorry for you. What do you have to look forward to? I was not invited to give the graduation speech here at North Central, and I regret that because I could have given a good one. In fact, I think I have one in this door. And when you come home at night, you put your car keys, your wallet, or your purse in there. You put your cell phone in there. You put your extra glasses in there. And in the time that you save not looking for them the next morning, you could write War and Peace. You could write all the sonnets to the dark lady, if you should be lucky enough to know one. That time. You don't mind if I talk about myself, do you? I mean, I don't know you well enough to talk about you. I've tried, in fiction, and sometimes it's worked out. But this book includes some little bit of autobiographical detail that interested me because I'm at that age where you can look back and you see where your life took a turn, and you no longer believe that hard work was the story of your life. Though you did work hard, you were brought up to, but it wasn't the important thing. The important thing was stupid luck. Stupid luck that you never could have imagined, and just recognizing when you go around a bend that this is the right bend. This is the way you should go. When I was kicked out of shop class by Mr. Orville Beeler in Anoka High School, I was in the 8th grade, and I had flunked plywood, and I had flunked sheet metal. I couldn't make a flour scoop, and I had flunked ball peen hammer, and he was watching me closely, and then I was kicked out because I broke the basic rule in shop, which was never sit down on a shop table, never. I sat down because I was talking to people and I was telling a joke to somebody, and I sat down and there was acid on the table, and it ate holes in my jeans slowly, over the course of a couple of hours. Now, I had to go to the nurse's office, and they got me a shop apron to wear around the backside of me. The principal gave Mr. Beeler a hard time. He said, you just talk all the time anyway, so we're going to just send you up to Miss Pearson's speech class up in room 305, and that's where I went up the stairs, with a feeling of shame. But I got up there, and here she was. She was a recent graduate of Augsburg College in Minneapolis. She was a young Lutheran woman, and she was by disposition, she was an encourager. You stood up on her little stage and you gave an extemporaneous speech like I'm doing now, and you made sure not to look at the people right in front of you because they were making faces at you and they were letting saliva drip out of their mouths. They were pulling invisible things out of their nostrils. You didn't look at your classmates. You looked at her, and she was standing in the back of the room in her white blouse and her green plaid skirt and wearing flats and a little necklace and her hair in a ponytail, kind of a dirty blonde, and she was smiling at you as if she had never heard anything so good as this. When you got into that class, you recognized this as a turn in the right direction, away from flower scoops and towards language and toward invention. You realized this was where you were supposed to go. The same year I tried out for football, but I couldn't pass the physical. The doctor put a stethoscope up on my chest and heard this click of a mitral valve and said, "I can't sign your permission slip." And so I felt downcast for a day and a half. And then someone, I think my English teacher, suggested that I go down to the paper and see if they needed a writer to write sports. There were two papers in town. One was succeeding and one was failing, and I went to the one that was failing, of course. They couldn't afford a real sports writer. And I walked into his office, in past the glass case with the wedding invitations, and asked him if he needed somebody. And he said yes. I was paid $1.50 for a game, $2 for an away game. And instead of suiting up and sitting down at the end of the bench and never playing, and being a tackling dummy for older boys, I sat up in a press box, way up high over the bleachers, and I watched the games, and I tried to write heroic accounts of losing games and make them seem as close as I could, and our team striving valiantly against overwhelming odds, and took this story down to the newspaper and banged it out on an Underwood upright typewriter that you had to hit hard in order to make an impression, and handed the copy to Whitey or Russ, the two linotype operators, sitting at these enormous clanking machines with a flame burning under the lead pot to keep it liquid, so when they finished tapping out a line of type, they pulled a lever and they tipped the lead into the mold, and they made a line and shoved it up into the galley, and the galley was put on the chase, on the turtle, and the whole thing was set up on the flatbed press. And on Wednesday morning, you got to go in and see Whitey, even though he was 3 sheets to the wind from drinking vodka with orange juice in a Dixie cup all day. Nonetheless, he stood on a wooden pallet and he lifted up a sheet of newsprint, a great huge sheet as big as a tablecloth, and he swung it up into the air and laid it down perfectly, time after time, on the flatbed, and the roller came whoosh, ka-chunk, 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 and down into the trimmer it went to trim it up, and on into the chute it went, and you opened it up to page 12, and here was your story, your words, under your name, waiting to be read, warm, still moist, waiting to be read. Hundreds, dozens of 3 or 4 people your aunts would read this. You never get over this pleasure, and you feel your life turning in this certain direction. I went off to the university. Well, this is just what I was talking about here. The Christian faith is on a bumpy road these days, as you find out if you stand up in front of an audience and make comic reference to the Bible, and depending on where in America you are, you sense confusion out there in the house. Some people trying to remember that story, others as uneasy about laughing at Christians as they would be if you had made a joke about morons or amputees. We one-legged morons laugh at each other all the time, but unbelievers are squeamish about it. And in another 20 years, you won't be able to tell stories about Lutherans. Nobody will know what you're talking about. It'll be like reminiscing about the Huguenots. But that's none of my business. The decline of the mainstream church, the rise of the theology-free, happy gospel churches with the hymns about Jesus, the good boyfriend. I go to church on Sunday because I want to be there. It's very cheerful to be with the others who want to be there, hear the scriptures and chant the psalm together, and listen to the sermon or not. Sometimes the minister tries too hard to be profound and loses us in the first 2 minutes, and we turn our attention to the hairstyles of the people in front of us. And then rise and go sailing through the Nicene Creed and go forward for communion, singing Laudate Omnes Gentes. And then a big closing hymn, and the pastor stands in back and tells us to go forth into the world where there are things to be done that won't get done unless we do them. And out we go into Sunday morning, feeling blessed and looking for those things. Well, that's the first paragraph. I guess you started, you have some idea of what that is about. It happened on Labor Day in Minneapolis at a spa with Peruvian flute music playing, aromatic candles, jasmine in the air. A powerful Jamaican masseuse named Angelica was working on my neck and shoulders and telling me how good her life had been since she turned it over to the Lord Jesus Christ and let him make all the decisions, including what to eat for lunch. I said, yes, she said. And I started to say something about honey and locusts. And in that instant, my brain fogged up. My mouth felt numb. I slurred the word locusts. I got up on my elbows. I took a deep breath. She said, are you okay? And I said, of course. I said, I am just fine, but I have to leave now. I forgot something. And I managed to pull my jeans on and t-shirt and paid her and stepped into my shoes, my head feeling as if a balloon were expanding inside it. A mystical experience, one a person would rather not have. I careened out the door, listing slightly to the left, and climbed into my old Volvo. Call me a fool, but I don't believe in dialing 911 anytime you feel woozy. So I drove 12 miles very carefully to United Hospital in St. Paul. Not many people in the emergency room waiting area. I took a number and was called to the desk and said in a clear voice, I believe I am having a stroke. And an orderly brought a wheelchair and took me down a series of halls to a curtained alcove, and I stripped down to my shorts and put on a hospital gown and lay on the examining table. It was a flowery gown, and I lay with hands clasped over my abdomen and imagined my funeral, my family walking past the coffin, dabbing at their eyes, looking down at my inert form, saying, what is he doing in that little gown? They're hanging, yes, but they're not hanging in a way that's dangerous.
I knew
I mean, I could, if I thought about it, I'd step on one. But when something like that happens on stage in front of people, people are grateful for us.
You mean you fell?
Yes. Yes. I did a show once in Rochester, Minnesota. It was at the junior college, and it was a stage. It was a portable stage on plywood, and because there was a big crowd, they moved the stage back to make room for more seats. And when they moved it back under a concrete overhang, which I didn't see because it was dark, and there was a spotlight. And I took a run towards the stage, and I leaped up onto the stage, and I hit my head hard against concrete, and I fell. But I knew to get up right away. And I got up so quickly that they assumed this was a trick. A circus trick of some kind. A man leaping head first into concrete. And I walked up to the microphone and I said, "Happy to be here." And for some reason this struck them as being funny. And they were a wonderful audience from then on. So that if I were to step on this shoelace and fall face first down on stage, I would just get up quickly and I would say something. I would think of something to say. And it would endear me to this audience. It would be the best thing I could do.